Talking Review, print speaking to the blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast, recorded at the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @QNReview. That is @ CUEANDREVIEW. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@QNreview.com. That is INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976. That's 0141 772 3976.
From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 19th of April, from the news section. Landlord takes tenant to court twice over mouldy home. Report by Stuart Patterson. A tenant who has complained about mould in his flat is being taken to court twice in 1 week by his housing association landlord. Alex Gordon has asked to be moved from his home in the south of the city as he suffers from a mould allergy, and he has reports stating it is exacerbated by his housing conditions, where high levels of mould have been found. Wheatley Homes Glasgow has started legal proceedings to get access to the home. A hearing is to take place at Glasgow Sheriff Court on Monday. Mr Gordon, however, said he wants to be moved from the home, which he said has damaged his health. We previously reported his ongoing battle since 2010 and how he was told there was no mould in his home. A second case, to call 2 days later, is to close a case where Mr Gordon was taking action to try to force what was then the GHA to rehouse him on health grounds. Mr Gordon said the letter states that the cost could be awarded to GHA against him. He said he is a pensioner with no other income and cannot afford any legal costs. He said, "I am being taken to court, but I am a victim, just asking to be rehoused. They have been into the house several times with inspectors and housing officers and have done nothing." He said Wheatley Homes has proposed treating the mould with a solution, then applying bonding and then painting. The tenant has reports from an independent environmental air quality inspector that said it needs to be removed completely. The landlord said it is not seeking costs. A Wheatley Homes Glasgow spokesperson said, "We take every report of damp or mould very seriously and have robust procedures in place to carry out the work quickly." Staff had tried repeatedly to work with Mr Gordon and his representative to arrange a date for any work needing done, but they've refused. This work would include an independent assessor and a full inspection. Any work identified by the assessor will be carried out. This can't happen until we get into the flat. We've now been left with no option but to go to court to get him into the home so we can carry out repairs. We are doing everything we can to help the family find a home which meets their needs. They continue to have our highest priority for rehousing. Despite claims, we are not seeking costs over previous legal proceedings involving Mr Gordon. Mr Gordon has been represented by Sean Clerkin of the Scottish Tenants Organisation. He has made a formal complaint on Mr Gordon's behalf. Mr Clerkin said, "Wheatley Homes are behaving in a very vindictive manner towards my client by threatening to force entry into his home to enforce treatment works that have been shown to be ineffective over the years. Alex Gordon is a very ill man, and for Wheatley Homes Glasgow to pursue him through the courts is an attempt to silence him." And that report was written by Stuart Patterson. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 19th of April, from the news section. Man jailed after blasting Glasgow home's window with a shotgun. By our court reporter. A serial thug who brandished what appeared to be a gun at a terrified police officer has been sentenced to 40 months. David Docherty pointed the weapon at PC Tom Marshall from the passenger seat of a Citroen in Glasgow's Finnieston on April the 24th, 2021, before the motor sped off. The 35-year-old committed the crime, having months earlier blasted the living room window of a house in the city's Cardonald with a shotgun. Docherty had denied the offences during a trial at the High Court in Glasgow. but jurors today convicted him of a total of 4 charges. He was found guilty of having a firearm or imitation gun with intent to cause PC Marshall to believe violence would be used against him. Docherty was guilty of culpably and recklessly discharging the 12-bore shotgun, as well as possessing the weapon in connection with the Cardonald incident. He was finally convicted of attempting to pervert the course of justice. Docherty is already serving a 4-year sentence imposed last October for torching the cars of prison officers at HMP Kilmarnock. Judge Alistair McFadden told him, "This case represents appalling behaviour in and around Glasgow. This involved an actual shotgun, an apparent weapon of some sort, and an attempt to destroy evidence to interfere with the court of inquiries into serious crime. The sentence will begin at the end of the 4-year jail term." The trial heard how police had pulled the Citroen in Glasgow's Lansfield Quay due to a potential insurance issue. In his speech to jurors, prosecutor Alex Prentice KC said PC Marshall got out and went into the vehicle. Mr. Prentice described how the passenger in the car leaned over and pointed the weapon at the constable, who immediately dropped to his knees. The Citroen then raced off at excessive speeds, even in the face of oncoming traffic. Jurors heard how PC Marshall was left in an upset state by what happened. The vehicle, which was found to have false number plates, was later discovered to have been torched in Mulgai, East Dunbartonshire. Mr. Prentice put to jurors, why would anyone set fire to a car? To remove any possible link to criminality? Docherty was linked to the car due to fingerprints and having been earlier captured on petrol station CCTV filling up such a vehicle. The shooting at the house in Cardonald occurred on July the 28th, 2020. Luckily, no one was in the house at the time. Jurors were told a red Ford Fiesta had been involved. Docherty was found days later at a house in Darnley, East Renfrewshire. There was a Ford Fiesta outside and he had a key which unlocked it. The gunman in the attack was also said to have a supermarket carrier bag. Such an item was also found in this motor. After the verdict, Mr. Prentice revealed Docherty had 22 previous convictions for violence, drugs, robbery and reckless conduct. In an article written by our court reporter. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 19th of April. From the news section, exclusive. Offensive graffiti supporting Lucy Letby appears in Glasgow. Report is by Kirsty Feerick. Graffiti supporting evil baby killer Lucy Letby has appeared in Glasgow as she tries to appeal her convictions. A huge plant pot outside of Kelvingrove Art Gallery and Museum was painted with the words Lucy Letby is innocent on Argyle Street, Finniston in the city's West End. We previously reported how the former nurse was sentenced to 14 whole life orders after she was convicted of the murders of 7 babies and the attempted murders of 6 others, with 2 attempts on one of her victims. This month, the 34-year-old will have the right to attend her appeal against her convictions via video link, if given the green light to challenge them at the Court of Appeal. Now, 6 supporters of the child killer have left a message in Glasgow which has left bystanders outraged. One angry witness of the graffiti said, "Someone has written Lucy Letby is innocent in a plant tub outside Kelvingrove Gallery on Argyle Street. This has been there for some weeks, but the GCC staff clearly have not noticed it. The graffiti is offensive in its own right, but also because it is just down the road from West Glasgow Ambulatory Care Hospital on the old Yorkhill Sick Kids site. Maternity and some paediatric services still operate from this site, so the graffiti is likely to be seen by patients visiting the WGACH as adjacent bus stops are in the stops for the hospital. The people doing this need a slap, and GCC staff in the gallery need to wake up." A council spokeswoman said, "We were not aware of this graffiti. It has now been removed." Lucy Letby's offences took place at the Countess of Chester Hospital's neonatal unit, where Letby worked as a nurse between June 2015 and June 2016. Her lawyers will ask senior judges in Court 4 for permission to bring an appeal against all her convictions. A judiciary spokesperson said, "The court has directed that it will hear Lucy Letby's renewed application for leave to appeal and, if leave to appeal is granted, the substantive appeal at the same hearing. The hearing is provisionally listed for 3 days, April 22nd, 23rd and 25th, 2024. The applicant would be entitled to attend a hearing of the substantive appeal via a video link and may be asked the court's permission to attend the renewed application. The former nurse had an initial application to take forward her challenge refused by a single judge without a hearing in January, but she is able to renew her efforts before a panel of 3 judges at the hearing this month. If judges again decline to give permission or reject her challenge, it will mark the end of the appeal process for Letby. In August 2023, Letby, of Hereford, was sentenced to 14 whole life orders after she was convicted of the murders of 7 babies and the attempted murders of 6 others, with 2 attempts on one of her victims. Letby refused to come up from her cell and attend her sentencing. And that report was an exclusive by Kirsty Feerick. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 19th of April, from the news section, exclusive. Student's life turned upside down after India buildings evacuation. Exclusive by Morgan Carmichael. A university student claims her life has been turned upside down after the roof collapsed in a 19th century building, forcing her nearby flat to be evacuated. Bronnie Jaya Murray, 22, and her partner Aaron, 26, were evacuated from their Oxford Street home following the collapse of the India building's roof in the city's south side earlier this month. The demolition of the building, which sits in Bridge Street, is currently underway. Bronnie said, "The whole experience has been so crazy and mental, it feels like a fever dream. We have found ourselves up to high dough with the stress of this. I'm in my final 2 weeks of university and I've had to put that all aside. I worry I won't pass because this is all eating into my university time, and what does that mean for me? The evacuation has put my future on hold. We know that life has to go on, but when you have university to worry about and jobs, it all just adds to the stress." Bronnie and Aaron were left searching for a place to live following the evacuation, which they have now secured. She said, "Thankfully we are sorted now and have somewhere to stay, which was all thanks to social media and not the council or anyone else for that matter. We reached out to people online and a friend of a friend had a place for us to let out. We are so lucky to have a roof over our heads now, but there is just no guarantee that we can continue staying here for the 16 weeks that the council are quoting for the demolition." Bronnie claimed that the Glasgow City Council have not helped any of the residents, including herself, with temporary accommodation and have not corresponded much, if at all, since emergency eviction. However, the local authority insists that they are giving residents as much information as they have and offered advice on access to homeless services. She added, "I've only lived here a year and my family aren't nearby. The council telling me to go to a homeless unit or hostel was just terrifying as a young person in a big city. When I contacted the homeless unit, it was so scary and everything was uncertain. They were quoting £70 a night to stay in the Charles Rennie Mackintosh building just for myself. That building is scary enough to walk past, never mind stay in." The Glasgow Times revealed last week that resident Scott Lindsay has found his life to be in limbo following the evacuation, while occupant Graham Watson has been left feeling appalled and disgusted by how the council handled the evacuation. A Glasgow City Council spokesperson said, "On the day of the evacuation, all of the residents were advised that if they had no access to other accommodation, such as the homes of friends and family, they could contact the council's homelessness team and contact details were given. The council has no other temporary accommodation that we can offer. As much information as possible has been given to the displaced residents so far, and this will continue as new and relevant information becomes available. We understand that this is a distressing time for these residents, but there will be little point in constant contact if there is no new/further information to give. Our building standards officers are always available and happy to answer questions, and the residents have their details." And that article was an exclusive by Morgan Carmichael. From the Glasgow Times, Friday the 19th of April, from the news section. Top cop speaks out after sex attacker jailed in Glasgow, by community reporter Esther Tarnay. A top detective has spoken out after a sex attacker was jailed for raping 2 young girls. Christopher Johnson, 33, was jailed for 10 years at the High Court in Glasgow today. He previously denied the charges but was convicted after a trial last month. Johnson preyed on the first victim in Glasgow's Knightswood and on the Isle of Bute. The second youngster was attacked in the city's Maryhill and Paisley, Renfrewshire. The crime spanned between 2003 and 2018. After the sentencing, Detective Inspector Jan McCall said, "Johnson abused the trust of these 2 children, and I would commend the victims for coming forward and reporting his behaviour to us. Investigating events that have happened in the past can present challenges, and it can sometimes only be with hindsight that people recognise that what happened to them was abuse. Police Scotland has highly trained specialist officers across the country who can investigate such offences and, working with partners, ensure perpetrators are brought to justice. We are committed to investigating all reports regardless of when abuse happened, where it took place, or who was involved. We will listen, we will investigate, and we will take prompt action to ensure that no one else is at a risk of harm. We would ask anyone wishing to report abuse to contact us on 101. That report was by Esther Tarnay.
From Glasgow Times, Friday, 19th of April, Lifestyle section, Asda, Aldi and Sainsbury's misleading food labels found, by Molly Court. A number of UK supermarkets have been found to be using misleading and fairly meaningless food labels on fresh produce according to an investigation. Loose cauliflowers, red cabbage, courgettes and onions at Sainsbury's, peppers, melons and mangoes at Asda, and spring onions at Aldi's had no visible origin labelling on the shelf or the products themselves, researchers for which found. Additionally, tomatoes from Morocco, parsley from Italy, and sweet mini peppers from Spain sat on a shelf under a large banner decorated with a Union Jack and the words "Championing Great British Quality" at the Aldi store visited by Which. In one Asda, Which found cauliflowers that had a Union Jack on the shelf label but were actually from Spain. Product labels also had fairly meaningless information such as a pack of sausage rolls from Lidl which stated they were processed using UK and non-UK pork, and a pack of gammon joints at Iceland where the pork was labelled as EU and non-EU origin. Aldi's Crestwood bacon and cheese wraps had Union Jacks and Made in Britain on the front of the pack, even as the label on the back of the pack said they were made with pork from the EU. The same was found with an Aldi steak and gravy pie. The Which investigation comes as a survey of more than 2,000 UK consumers, for the study found that just 51% of people find current origin information presented on groceries helpful. 2/3, 64%, said they would be more likely to buy a product labelled British than one that was not. Almost 3/4 of consumers, 72%, said it was important to know where fresh meat comes from, while 51% said they wanted to know where processed and tinned meat comes from. 2/3, 68%, considered it important to know where fresh fruit and vegetables come from. Current labelling rules require meat, fish, fresh fruit and vegetables, honey and wine to include a country or place of origin. The rules do not generally apply to processed meat or frozen or processed fruit and vegetables. There is a requirement to provide origin labelling if it would be misleading not to. The survey also revealed that 59% of shoppers who check for origin labelling do it because they want to support their local economy, while 58% use it to help assess product quality and 52% use it to try to understand the product's environmental impact. Which said origin labelling needed to be improved if it was to properly help shoppers make informed decisions that align with their values. The watchdog said it would share its findings with the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs for its consultation on fairer food labelling, which launched on March the 15th. Which retail editor L. Clark said, which research has uncovered a surprising amount of inconsistent and misleading food labelling, suggesting that, even when the rules are properly adhered to, consumers aren't getting all the information they want about their food's origin. Shoppers want to know where their food comes from for multiple reasons, including supporting British suppliers and making more sustainable choices. Supermarkets should particularly focus on labelling loose fruit and vegetables more clearly, but manufacturers and retailers should also consider providing origin information on more processed meat products so shoppers are armed with the information they need to make informed choices. An Aldi spokeswoman said, "We understand that our shoppers want to know where the food they buy comes from, and we worked hard to ensure that all our labelling complies with the rules. When it comes to fresh fruit and veg, we are proud to support British farmers and aim to stock British produce whenever it's available. Customers understand that at this time of year that isn't always possible, but we remain firmly committed to supporting the British farming community." Asda added, "We have stringent processes in place to ensure country of origin is clearly displayed on the shelf edge and on products themselves where applicable at all our stores. We have reminded our colleagues at this particular store of these processes so that customers are able to clearly see the country of origin." A spokeswoman for Iceland commented, "At Iceland, our products are great quality and value for customers, and we follow UK government guidance on food labelling, including country of origin." A Sainsbury's spokeswoman explained, "We have processes in place to make sure country of origin information is clearly displayed on the product or shelf, and we carry out regular checks working closely with our regulator, the Animal and Plant Health Agency." That article was written by Molly Court. From Glasgow Times, Friday, 19th of April, Lifestyle section, Glasgow's West Fest launches Summer Festival programme by Esther Tarney. West Fest Cultural and Community Festival will launch its full programme tomorrow. The annual celebration promises a colourful array of more than 120 events, performances and activities across the full month of June. Some special highlights will include the return of the famous Kelvin Grove outdoor ceilidh, Bard in the Botanics, and a programme of illustrated talks at Kelvin Hall. The festival will see the return of the Vinicum Street Gala, the Big Sunday at Kelvin Grove Bandstand, the Queen Margaret Drive Festival, and Drag at the Bandstand. The brochure will launch tomorrow with a samba band performance tour across the West End from The brochure will launch tomorrow with a samba band performance tour across the West End from Sambia Bama and Think Circus. You can find them at Kelvin Grove Park Stewart Memorial Fountain at 1 p.m, Kelvin Grove Gallery's front piazza at 2 p.m, and the Botanical Gardens at 3 p.m. Brendan McElroy, Westfest's director, founded the festival in 2022 in response to the overwhelming demand for community and cultural events in the area. He said, we're absolutely delighted to be launching Westfest's 2024 programme this week. We've been hard at it for 6 months, pulling together a diverse mix of events, with our focus this year being to reach further across the West End to produce and feature events in areas we haven't historically delivered in. After all, the West End is bigger than Hillhead. Things are generally rather bleak for people just now, with the country facing a range of unprecedented challenges. With Westfest, we're focusing on providing some levity and enrichment, and also opportunity for communities to come together. All of the outdoor community events Westfest produces are free and accessible to all, and always will be. That article was written by Esther Tarney. From Glasgow Times, Friday, 19th of April, Lifestyle section, Taylor Swift references Glasgow band on The Tortured Poets Department by Rosie Lewis. Taylor Swift has paid tribute to a Glasgow band on her eagerly anticipated album The Tortured Poets Department. Released on Friday, April the 19th, the singer-songwriter's 11th studio album is believed to heavily reference her breakups with British actor Joe Alwyn and the 1975 frontman Matt Healy. The opening lyrics to the track Guilty as Sin reveals Swift was introduced to the Blue Nile by one of her exes. In the song, she claims she still cries every time she hears their haunting 1989 song Downtown Lights. The lyrics go, "Drowning in the Blue Nile, he sent me downtown lights. I haven't heard it in a while. My boredom's bone deep. This cage was once just fine. Am I allowed to cry?" The Daily Record reports an insider said last night, "Taylor loves the Blue Nile and thinks the group are different class, and yes, she was introduced to the band by a former love." The lyrics speak for themselves. Swift dated Alwyn for 6 years before they broke up in April 2023. She then embarked on a controversial but short-lived relationship with Healy before she met her current partner, NFL star Travis Kelce. Founded in 1981, the Blue Nile consisted of Paul Buchanan, Robert Bell, and Paul Joseph Moore. Their early music was built heavily on synthesizers and electronic instrumentation and percussion, with later works featuring guitar more prominently. The band gained critical acclaim for their first 2 albums, A Walk Across the Rooftops, 1984, and Hats, 1989, though they only had 4 top 75 hits in the UK singles chart, with the highest being Saturday Night, which reached number 50 in 1991. The band members gained a reputation for their avoidance of publicity, their idiosyncratic dealings with the recording industry, and their perfectionism and slow work rate. They released 4 studio albums, with their final album, High, released on August the 30th, 2004. That article was written by Rosie Lewis.
Glasgow Times News on Monday the 22nd of April. Life-saving defibrillators installed at several Glasgow railway stations. An article written by Ben Waddell. Life-saving defibrillators have been installed at several railway stations across Glasgow. ScotRail has said that 87 defibrillators have now been installed at railway stations throughout the country, after the train operator completed the latest rollout of new machines. The devices are now in place at stations including Charing Cross, Argyle Street, Crossmalouf, Exhibition Centre, Queen Street, Yoker, and at many more. The travel company has installed the new machines in accessible places wherever possible at the stations, and they are available at all times. However, ScotRail has said that there are exceptions where it's been necessary to install them in ticket offices due to security issues. Defibrillators can help to restore heart rhythm when someone goes into cardiac arrest. The rail firm says the completion of the rollout of the equipment has greatly enhanced their availability across the country's railway. Meanwhile, all of the devices are registered with the Scottish Ambulance Service, and the ScotRail network map has been updated to show a green heart beside each station that currently has a defibrillator installed. The information is also held on the circuit, which is the national defibrillator network. This means that when 999 is called and the caller advises the handler of a cardiac event, the handler will check the database and direct the caller to the nearest device. David Lister, who is ScotRail's Safety and Sustainability Director, said, ScotRail recognises that in an emergency, a defibrillator can make the difference between life and death, and we're delighted to have been able to install so many of them at stations across the network. With all of our new devices registered on the national network, it means that if anyone is in need of urgent medical care, they will get that vital support when they need it most. We're delighted to be supporting communities throughout Scotland, and this latest rollout ensures that 87 of our stations now have a machine. An article written by Ben Waddell. Glasgow Times, on Monday the 22nd of April. Lifestyle. CrimeCon returns to Glasgow with top true crime experts. An article written by Sandhya Suresh. The world's leading true crime event is returning to Glasgow with an impressive lineup of experts. CrimeCon takes place on April the 27th at the Hilton Hotel, and true crime enthusiasts, survivors, criminologists, authors, podcasters and law enforcement officers will share their stories. Attendees will have the experience of stepping into the shoes of sleuths and participating in analysing a crime scene thanks to a new partnership between CrimeCon UK and Think Forensic. The interactive CSI experience follows the huge hit from the Las Vegas and London CrimeCon events. The one-day programme, which is expected to include content from documentary makers and investigative journalists, is held in association with True Crime, a factual entertainment channel and true crime destination. Nancy Bohan, event director of CrimeCon UK, said CrimeCon Glasgow is a key event on the CrimeCon UK calendar now. We are bringing the most comprehensive and compelling true crime event in the UK back to Glasgow to our engaged and incredibly empathetic supporters. The conference offers people a chance to also participate in Cold Tapes, a hybrid podcast and murder mystery game. Attendees are challenged to solve a case for a chance to win £10,000 and earn the title of Super Sleuth of the Year. Guest speakers at this year's CrimeCon Glasgow include Dr. Richard Shepherd, a leading forensic pathologist, Kerry Danes, a best-selling author and forensic psychologist, and Penny Farmer, a freelance journalist and PR consultant, who will be talking about her 40-year search for her brother's killer, as documented in her book Dead in the Water. More information can be found at this web address, www.crimecon.co.uk. An article written by Sandhya Suresh. Glasgow Times, on Monday the 22nd of April. Lifestyle. The Orchid Fair returns to the Botanic Gardens for the 25th year. An article written by Nicole Mitchell. The only annual orchid show and fair in Scotland is set to return to Glasgow for its 25th year. The Glasgow Botanic Gardens Orchid Fair 2024 will take place on Saturday, May the 11th and Sunday, May the 12th in the historic Kibble Palace. The event allows guests to admire displays of the exotic plants as well as to purchase a wide range of orchids from specialist UK nurseries. The Orchid Fair is free to attend, and members of the Scottish Orchid Society who assist with the running of the event will be on hand to offer advice on how to care for your orchids and to answer any questions. Alan Mackenzie, chair of the Scottish Orchid Society, said, "We are delighted to welcome a large range of orchid societies and traders this year. There really will be something for everyone. The way people keep orchids is changing, and there are so many options now." Growing tropical orchids indoors is increasingly popular, on the windowsill or under lights, and there are even hardy orchids that can grow happily outside in the garden, as well as those suited to traditional greenhouse growing. There will be orchid displays by the Scottish Orchid Society, North of England Orchid Society, North East of England Orchid Society, Hinckley and District Orchid Society, and the Hardy Orchid Society. Helen Milner will also return to the event with her award-winning educational exhibit on orchid pollination, while on Saturday, Christine Nicholson, orchid propagator at the Botanic Gardens, will lead a guided tour behind the scenes of their orchid collection. Founded in 1959, the Scottish Orchid Society is the only orchid-based society in Scotland. The group actively supports orchid protection and conservation, as well as growing and caring for their own plants. More details can be found at this web address, www.scotishorchid.org/orchid-fair-2024. An article written by Nicole Mitchell. Glasgow Times on Monday the 22nd of April. Opinion. We need to access finance to deliver climate action. A column written by Martha Wardrop. This month, the United Nations Climate Change Executive Secretary Simon Steele said that we have 2 years to save the planet. It's vital that we implement much stronger action on the climate crisis and access the significant climate finance that is needed. The Scottish Greens have made it clear that the fossil fuel industry has to face up to the realities of the climate crisis. We cannot live in a world where companies can open up old oil and gas fields in the North Sea and drill for more fossil fuels. There can be no new drilling if we're to reach net zero. We have to take action to stop these cash-hungry fossil fuel giants from prizing open long-abandoned fields. Without Scottish independence, those powers lie at Westminster, and it's utterly shameful that a UK government subsidises the destruction of our climate, with the only benefits being felt by fossil fuel shareholders. Under this Tory government, fossil fuel firms are being given tax breaks to help them. We have to introduce changes to taxation for new drilling to stop. There has to be a focus on efforts to bring together political leaders from England, Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland as part of a 4 nations climate response group to deliver the just transition to net zero. We need to support a ramping up of action across some of the toughest areas to reduce emissions. We have to provide people and businesses with the assistance they need to cut emissions and build a green net zero economy. Climate plans have to give more investment in greener jobs for workers, including at Musmoran and at Grangemouth. We have to tackle road congestion and deliver integrated tickets to make bus, train, subway and ferry travel easier. There is a need to support the rollout of local traffic demand measures, such as congestion charges used successfully in places like London, Stockholm and in Bergen. This can address the local bottlenecks and cut emissions, with the funds generated used to enhance local bus and other public transport. Fewer queues improve air quality and health and helps businesses save on journey times as we slash car use by 20%. There is a requirement to rapidly invest in electric vehicle charging points so more people and businesses can go electric. More support is required for businesses and households to switch, as well as to enable the decarbonisation of freight. We can look at how non-domestic rates relief can support climate ambitions and encourage investment in zero direct emissions, with a proposal for a new tax to encourage peatland restoration and tree planting. We can work to introduce an aviation departure tax, which will drive down emissions from flying without impact to island services. Scottish Green MSPs have a pivotal role in ensuring that Scotland is accelerating climate action. The climate crisis is the biggest challenge of our lifetimes. Scottish Green councillors will continue to push to ensure that decision-making supports the urgent and accelerated climate action needed across communities in Glasgow. A column written by Martha Wardrop. Glasgow Times News on Monday, the 22nd of April. Part of a Glasgow railway line to remain closed due to a sinkhole. An article written by Ben Waddell. Part of a Glasgow railway line is to remain closed until next week after a sinkhole swallowed a section of the track. Network Rail has said that the line between Airdrie and Bathgate is expected to remain closed until next Monday due to the potentially complex nature of the repairs needed to the railway. It comes after we first reported the issue on Sunday the 21st of April. The sinkhole is between Caldercrooks and Drumgelach. Now the rail firm and its contractors are working to establish the sinkhole's size and depth, and the presence of an underground spring is also being looked at as a potential cause. Once investigations are complete, engineers will then be able to put together a repair plan, as well as give a clearer indication of when the line can reopen. In the meantime, ScotRail services between Helensburgh Central and Edinburgh will terminate at Airdrie. A replacement bus service will then connect Airdrie and Bathgate, calling at all intermediate stations in between, with a train shuttle service then running between Bathgate and Edinburgh. Trains between Ballach and Airdrie are not affected. Network Rail has previously shared pictures of the sinkhole on social media. In the images, a large hole can be seen under the tracks. Ross Moran, Interim Route Director for Network Rail Scotland, said, "Sinkholes like this are very unusual on the railway, and our specialist geotechnical engineers are working tirelessly to identify the cause, as well as planning the repairs, so that we can reopen the railway. We understand the inconvenience this incident will cause for passengers, and I'd like to thank those who travel on this route for their patience and understanding while work continues." Phil Campbell, ScotRail Customer Operations Director, said, "We are doing everything we can to keep our customers moving while this issue is resolved, with replacement buses between Airdrie and Bathgate. Customers should plan their journey in advance and allow some extra time, as the bus service will take longer." An article written by Ben Waddell. Glasgow Times News on Monday, the 22nd of April. Patrick Harvey is unsure of the future of the Butte House Agreement. An article issued by the Glasgow Times news desk. Scottish Greens co-leader Patrick Harvey has said that Scotland is years behind taking action to reduce emissions, and admitted he does not know if the SNP coalition will continue. The SNP's power-sharing agreement at Holyrood could be under threat, as the Greens announced that they will hold a fresh vote on the future of the deal after the Scottish Government ditched its 2030 climate change targets. The Butte House Agreement, which was voted for by members of both parties in August 2021, brought the Greens into government for the first time anywhere in the UK, and gave the SNP a majority in the Scottish Parliament when its votes there were combined with those of the 7 Green MSPs. Mr Harvey, appearing on the Sunday show on BBC Scotland, said focusing on targets is not enough. "It's been clear for a long time now that Scotland is not on track to reach that target," he said. "The truth is that we are not where we should be. We are years behind on actually taking action to reduce emissions. Targets do not reduce emissions." Mr Harvey branded some of the rhetoric self-congratulatory and said other parties which voted for targets voted against the actions. He added, "This is a moment that is critical for the future of climate policy in Scotland, which is the reason Greens are in politics in the first place. It's critical to the future of our party as well, and over the next few weeks we have probably the most important decision to make that we've ever had to make about the future of our party. And I want to make sure that we're all listening to each other and making sure that we genuinely understand and share not just the sense of urgency and the deep disappointment and anger about the fact that Scotland is not on track at the moment, but a focus and determination on action. And my worry is that if we walked away at this point, we would decelerate the climate action. We would see the hand strengthened of the likes of Fergus Ewing, backbencher in the SNP now, who's constantly popping up and having a go at environmental policy and urging the government to slow down." An article issued by the Glasgow Times news desk. Glasgow Times News on Monday, the 22nd of April. Scottish Parliament Committee backs Abortion Buffer Zone Bill. An article written by Stuart Patterson. The bill to ban anti-abortion protests directly outside hospitals and health clinics has been backed by a committee of MSPs. The Abortion Services Safe Access Zone Bill is going through the Scottish Parliament and has been before the Health Committee. Today, it's been announced that the committee has approved the general principles of the bill. It was proposed by Gillian Mackay, Scottish Greens MSP, to prevent the protests that regularly occur outside places like the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital, the Royal Infirmary and the Sandyford Clinic. The committee stated, the evidence it has gathered has led it to conclude that the creation of safe access zones around abortion services are necessary to protect women's rights, so that they can access healthcare services without experiencing harassment and undue influence. It also recognised the potential impact the bill will have in restricting the human rights of those who engage in anti-abortion activity outside abortion services. However, it found the restrictions on human rights are proportionate to achieving the aims of the bill. A report said there were differing views on the committee on the issue of silent prayer. Those taking part in the protests, like recent ones under the 40 Days for Life campaign during Lent, claim they are staging a vigil or engaging in prayer. The committee said it would be difficult for the police to decide whether a law has been broken by people silently praying, and that this issue requires further consideration. The committee added that the bill's implementation needs to be subject to ongoing post-legislative review to ensure that these restrictions continue to be proportionate and kept to a necessary minimum. Claire Haughey, MSP, convener of the Health, Social Care and Sport Committee, said, "Our committee is united in backing the Abortion Services Safe Access Zones Scotland Bill. We recognise the strong views it has generated and that not all are in favour of its introduction. But ultimately, we believe the creation of safe access zones around abortion services is necessary to enforce the principle that everyone should be able to access healthcare free from intimidation or harassment. We understand that there are competing human rights at play, but we have concluded that this bill strikes an appropriate balance." She said that there were extensive discussions on the issue of silent prayer, and some members felt this should be exempt. Others, however, felt an exemption would fundamentally undermine its purpose, and that silent prayer can be intimidating to those accessing the services. An article written by Stuart Patterson.
From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 23rd of April, from the news section, City man with cerebral palsy runs London Marathon. This article is unattributed. A Scottish man with cerebral palsy has completed the London Marathon on Sunday, raising money for two local charities. Andrew Tomlinson, 40, from Glasgow, capped off the 6 major marathons when he finished the London Marathon, having already run in Boston, Berlin, Chicago, New York and Tokyo. Tomlinson has hemiplegic hypertonia cerebral palsy, which means he cannot respond with his left arm or left leg. He was raising funds for the Prince and Princess of Wales Hospice in Glasgow and the My Name's Doddy Foundation, which funds research into treatments for motor neuron disease. "I'm a great rugby fan. I'm a Scot and I grew up watching Doddy Weir when I was a young boy," Tomlinson said after completing the race. After running in Tokyo 3 weeks ago, Tomlinson said, "Crowds in London are far superior. It pushed me on. I probably ran a wee bit quicker than I expected to because I've not been feeling good. I reckon I'm the first person with cerebral palsy to do all 6 majors," he continued, adding, "I've also run in under 4 hours, which I suspect may be a world record." More than 50,000 people ran the 26.2 mile course through London, making it the largest turnout in the marathon's history. Last year's marathon, the world's biggest annual one-day fundraising event, raised £63 million for thousands of charities. And that article was unattributed. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 23rd of April, from the news section, person in hospital after train incident. This article is unattributed. A person has been taken to hospital following the closure of a railway line yesterday. A line was closed in both directions as emergency services attended an incident at Hindland Station in the west end of the city. Now, British Transport Police, BTP, has said that officers received reports of a casualty on the tracks at around 4:20 p.m. They confirmed that paramedics attended and a person was taken to hospital. Their condition is unknown, but BTP said the incident has not been treated as suspicious. A spokesperson said, officers were called to Hindland railway station at 4:23 p.m. on April the 22nd to reports of a casualty on the tracks. Paramedics also attended and a person was taken to hospital. The incident has not been treated as suspicious. Police Scotland was also contacted for comment, and that article was unattributed. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 23rd of April, from the news section. Quad bike crackdown. Report by Stuart Patterson. A bid to crack down on dangerous quad bike riders with tougher rules has been taken forward by a Glasgow MP. There have been several incidents and deaths in the city as a result of people riding quad bikes irresponsibly in recent years. Anne McLaughlin, Glasgow North East SNP MP, has presented a private member's bill in the House of Commons following concern and complaints from constituents about antisocial and dangerous use of such bikes. She said she had heard of bikes being a menace, driven in parks and on pavements at speeds of up to 70 miles per hour, leaving residents terrified. The bill would mean bikes would need to be registered and a registration mark visibly displayed. The MP said there would be exemptions for legitimate industrial purposes, like farming or land management use. She said, I've heard from so many constituents about the trouble caused by the antisocial, improper and frankly life-threatening use of motorbikes and quads in Glasgow. I've been hearing from families who are scared to let their kids out to play in fear that they are run down by off-road bikes travelling on pavements and play parks at speeds in excess of 60 miles per hour to 70 miles per hour, and that's just not fair. Worse than this, there have been fatalities involving unlicensed and unregistered off-road trail bikes in my constituency, and I want to do something to prevent that ever happening again. The MP said she has the support of the National Motorcyclist Council and cross-party MPs who want action as this is an issue that affects areas across the UK. She said it is not easy for the police to catch people on bikes when they are speeding through parks and on pavements, and feels that a registration mark will mean that the owners can be identified and tracked down. McLaughlin added, I know how much fun people can get from riding these off-road vehicles, and, although it might not be for me, I do see the appeal in the sport. I don't want to try and ban anything or stop the genuine enjoyment of riding an off-road bike. I just want it to be safer for everyone involved. It terrifies me when I see these people riding at high speeds with no helmets and no concern for their own safety or the safety of those around them. Incidents involving quad bikes in Glasgow have ended in fatalities on a number of occasions. In June 2022, a 36-year-old man died in Lamhill Cemetery after his bike crashed into a headstone. The crash took place early on a Sunday morning. Margaret Meldrum, 75, was killed when Kirk Kilgore ran into her on an off-road quad bike in Knightswood. Kilgore, 25, who had been drinking and taking drugs, went on a road, mounted the pavement and crashed into Margaret, who was walking to nearby shops. In November 2019, a man died after he crashed a quad bike. David McMillan, 27, died after he struck traffic lights in Archer Hill Road, Knightswood. He had been riding on the road with two others on quad bikes at the time. And that article was by Stuart Patterson. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 23rd of April, from the news section. School in bid to help pupils overcome exam fears. Exclusive. Head teacher reveals innovative way City Secondary is attempting to boost preparation for youngsters. Report by Anne Fotheringham. As exam season begins across Scotland, a Glasgow secondary school has come up with an innovative way of helping young people prepare. Drumchapel High's hands-on approach, which includes a prep and chill room, helpful masterclasses and an extra community study spaces has helped to transform the way some pupils feel about exams, says head teacher Madeline Baker. One of the most striking things is the feedback we have had from the invigilators, says Ms. Baker. They said they had noticed a marked difference in engagement in the exam hall. We also have more pupils sitting exams. We're trying to build a culture around exams that demonstrates they are not something to fear and we can help. More than 131,000 pupils will sit National 5, Higher and Advanced Higher exams across Scotland over the next 6 weeks. Performance and practical elements in subjects such as drama, music and PE have been taking place over the last few weeks. More than 2 million question papers will be handed out in around 500 schools, colleges and training providers across the country. In addition, many learners will be in the final stages of completing National 1 to National 4 qualifications, SQA awards, Skills for Work courses, National Progression Awards and National Certificates that are continually assessed throughout the year. In total, more than 146,000 candidates are expected to get their results on Tuesday, August the 6th. Some coursework has been reintroduced this year after being removed during the pandemic, such as physics and chemistry higher assignments. The SQA has said it will consider any impact on learners completing coursework for the first time in its grading decisions. At many schools, senior pupils are beginning study leave, attending only on exam days. At Drumchapel High, however, the approach is slightly different, explains the head teacher. Studying at home is not always easy for numerous reasons, she adds. We ask senior pupils to attend school every day so we can support them throughout. Teachers run masterclasses, and for those young people for whom studying and engaging with learning can be a challenge, we have a bespoke achievement zone, which is a little quieter and less distracting. We have created a prep and chill room with food and drinks where young people can come and get some encouraging words of advice or pick up an extra pen or pencil so they don't walk to the exam and panic sets in when they realise they have forgotten something. The whole idea is to look at things more holistically. As soon as you're in the heightened sense of stress, it becomes difficult to retrieve information. She adds, since the end of the pandemic, many young people simply find exams overwhelming. The importance of assessment cannot be questioned, but for assessment to be a success, young people have to feel supported and be able to walk into exams with a sense of confidence. Fifth year pupil Jason Asidu said, the option of having this study support is very beneficial, particularly if people don't have somewhere to study. For those who feel less confident about independent study, they can access teachers for help. Fellow S5 student Rory McKellar adds, it's good to have a different place to study. The master classes are great. Drumchapel High has also linked up with the local library and G15 Youth Project to provide study spaces in the community. We take a very nurturing and supportive approach, adds Ms. Baker. It is important to invest in our young people, to help them do the best they can, even when they feel like it is a mountain to climb. A shake-up of assessments and qualifications in high schools could be on the way after recommendations made in the Hayward Report, It's Our Future, Independent Review of Qualifications and Assessment. Ms. Baker says, the consultation process as part of the Hayward Review was done in a very fair way, with so many views from stakeholders taking it into account, and it gave a strong sense of what people value from assessments. Now we will see how that plays out in terms of reform. As a head teacher, there is a lot to look forward to. The SQA website has a wide range of support for learners, including a Your Exams guide that gives learners helpful hints and tips for preparing for exams. This booklet is also available from schools, colleges and training providers. Learners can access revision tips and past papers and download SQA's My Study Plan app to help them plan their revision time. All candidates will receive the results by post on August the 6th, but there is still time for them to register for a MySQA account to receive results by text and or email on results day. Learners should log on to www.mysqa.org.uk, that's www.mysqa.org.uk, and register for the service with their unique Scottish candidate number by 5 p.m. on July 17th. Councillor Christina Cannon, Glasgow City's education convener, said, "Good luck to all of our young people across the city due to set their SQE exams over the coming weeks. Exam season can be an anxious time for pupils, so it's great to see our schools offering encouraging and nurturing environments to help prepare and support our young people through this diet." And that article was an exclusive by Anne Fotheringham. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 23rd of April, from the Arts and Entertainment section. Sir Rod delights fans with surprise. Sir Rod Stewart has delighted fans with a surprise performance at a Glasgow bar over the weekend. The legendary musician got behind the mic at Murphy's Bar on Bell Street in the city on Saturday. In a clip, shared by Scottish country singer Kevin Maguire on social media, the 79-year-old joined Kevin and John McLaughlin, the singer from a Glasgow-based band, Johnny Mark and the Faithful, to sing Maggie May, one of Rod's hit tunes. As the trio belted out the song, the crowd in the pub could be heard cheering and singing along. Sharing the moment on TikTok, Kevin said, "Surreal moment. Performing Maggie May with Rod Stewart. Insane moment." Again from the Arts and Entertainment section. I love you so much. A multi-platinum pop star has hailed Glasgow after her concert in the city. Canadian-born star Tate McRae has said she loves Glasgow so much after her performance in the city over the weekend. The 20-year-old posted a clip on social media of her show at the O2 Academy on Saturday. In the video, the star was singing her hit tune You Broke Me First, while the crowd could also be heard singing it word for word. Posting the clip on TikTok, the star said, "I love you so much, Glasgow." The singer-songwriter is also known for her hits Greedy, Exes, 1035, Run for the Hills and many more. During her musical career, so far, Tate has received several awards including nominations for 2 Billboard Music Awards, an MTV VMA Award and multiple People's Choices Award. And those articles were unattributed. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 23rd of April, from the news section. Texas star was ordered to change her look by Kirsty Feerick. Texas star Charlene Spiteri claims she was ordered to change her look for success. The frontwoman has revealed she was challenged to alter her appearance and clothing choices as soon as the iconic Glasgow band was signed. However, she says this has given her the B**** and the guts to say no as she stayed true to herself. The 56-year-old was interviewed by Chris Difford, founder of the band Squeeze, for the latest podcast episode of I Never Thought It Would Happen from the charity Help Musicians. In the episode, Charlene confirmed she's never had a great relationship with the music industry, as she believes that comments telling her to change still happen, but now are completely camouflaged and hidden really well. Charlene also spoke about how she absolutely loved Glastonbury, with the crowd singing along from the first minute of the set, exclaiming, "I didn't think they were going to act the way they did." She revealed how the festival changed things for the band, with the likes of Fred again playing their songs, leading her daughter saying for the first time that she thought her mum was actually quite cool. While reflecting on her career, Charlene feels privileged to still be relevant, particularly as a woman in music. She loves being on stage, but also reveals that touring can be difficult, particularly becoming a schlep after COVID and Brexit, relating how long and laborious the travelling has become. Discussing the band's approach to well-being, Charlene touches on their past experiences with drugs and alcohol, stating, "Members of the band have had their run-ins with drugs and alcohol. We've had moments where somebody has fallen off the stage. However, the band have now changed their mindset to be conscious that there is a job to do and they need to be healthy to work the next day." Help Musicians is a charity that supports musicians across the UK in times of crisis and opportunity, ensuring musicians can achieve their creative potential and sustain a career in music. Sister charity Music Minds Matter puts mental well-being centre stage in music by providing everybody who works in music with the early support, knowledge and tools they need at exactly the time they need them. Find out more about Help Musicians services or make a donation to support its work at helpmusicians.org.uk. That's helpmusicians.org.uk. And that article was written by Kirsty Friedrich and read by me, Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 23rd of April, news. Thug, 33, ambush man down lane to steal phone. These articles are unattributed. A thug who ambushed a man down a lane, then stole his phone and cash, was jailed yesterday for 16 months. Jamie Jigsy O'Rourke, 33, and 2 others pounced on George Miller in Glasgow city centre on March the 2nd last year. Mr. Miller was knocked to the ground before the 3 men were seen to rifle through his pockets. The attackers made off with their victim's mobile phone as well as a wallet containing £180 in cash. O'Rourke pleaded guilty at Glasgow Sheriff Court to the assault and robbery of Mr. Miller to his injury. Co-accused Mark McGarvey, Darren Finnegan and James Frey had their not guilty pleas accepted by the Crown. The court heard that O'Rourke, of Rutherglen, 2 others and their victim walked down the lane near the Nike store on Buchanan Street, initially without event. Prosecutor Ryan Watson said, Mr. Miller fell to the ground as he was knocked in the back of his head. 2 witnesses walking past noted the 3 men went through Mr. Miller's pockets, then fled the scene. Mr. Watson added, Mr. Miller got back up and he noticed his mobile phone was gone along with his wallet, which contained £180. The victim also discovered there was blood coming from his head. The matter was then reported to the police. O'Rourke's lawyer told the court her client has little recollection of the incident and occurred when he was at his worst. Sheriff Paul Reid told O'Rourke that he was required to impose a custodial sentence. Man charged after flight allegedly forced to divert. A man has been charged after a Glasgow flight heading to Tenerife was allegedly forced to divert at the weekend. EasyJet flight number EZY3113, which was heading to the island from Glasgow Airport on Saturday, was diverted to Bristol after 2 passengers were allegedly being disruptive. The pair were reportedly met by cops once landing at the English airport, and the plane later continued on to Tenerife. Now, even in Somerset, police has said a 34-year-old man has been charged on 1 count of being drunk on an aircraft, criminal damage, failing to obey the lawful commands of the pilot while on board an aircraft, and using threatening, abusive or insulting words towards crew while in an aircraft. It added the second man involved in the alleged incident was arrested on suspicion of being drunk on an aircraft. He was released with no further action. The first man was due to appear in court yesterday. Ahead of the charge of the 34-year-old, a spokesperson for EasyJet said, EasyJet's cabin crew are trained to assess and evaluate all situations and to act quickly and appropriately to ensure the safety of the flight and other passengers is not compromised at any time. While such incidents are rare, we take them very seriously and do not tolerate disruptive behaviour on board. And those articles were unattributed.
Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 23rd of April, from the opinions section. I feel myself swaying against legalising assisted dying. Last week, Lib Dem MSP Liam MacArthur published his private member's bill, seeking in certain tightly defined circumstances to legalise assisted dying. The bill aims to allow someone aged 16 or over who is terminally ill with a condition they won't recover from and which is expected to cause premature death to obtain the consent of 2 doctors to be provided with assistance to end their own life. Both doctors need to be satisfied that a person is acting voluntarily without being coerced or pressured. I have rarely been as conflicted on any issue as I am on this. On previous occasions, when the matter has come before Parliament, I have voted against. I have been determined this time to consider the issue afresh, and to consider all the different arguments with an open mind. Liam is to be commended for the thorough and sensitive way in which he is giving Parliament the opportunity to do so. I had expected this time, if I am being frank, to find myself swaying in favour of the legislation. I believe that we all deserve as much agency as possible over our own lives, and, in theory at least, I understand the argument that this must entail, in some circumstances, the right to decide when to end our lives. Also, like most, I am deeply moved by accounts of terminally ill people living in severe pain and distress, who wish to die with dignity and in peace at a time of their own choosing. I have asked myself time and again what I would want in these circumstances, but, in truth, I don't know. Can any of us answer this question properly in the abstract, before and until we find ourselves in the situation? And, even if I wouldn't choose it, does that justify me voting against the right of others to do so? All these arguments have force, and yet so far, despite my expectations, the more deeply I think about the different issues involved, the more I find myself veering away from a vote in favour, not towards it. I worry that even with the best of intentions and the most carefully worded legislation, it will be impossible to properly guarantee that no one at the end of their life will feel a degree of pressure, a sense that it might be better for others, for them not to be here, even if their loved ones try to persuade them otherwise. And, even more fundamentally, I worry about the thin end of the wedge. That if we normalise assisted dying, if we come to associate dignity at the end of life with choosing to die, rather than being supported to live in as much peace and comfort as possible, then we will, as a society, lose focus on the palliative and end-of-life care and support that is necessary to help people, even in the worst of circumstances. To live with dignity, and I worry that over time, this shift in collective mindset will see the tightly drawn provisions of the bill extended much further. These, then, are the issues that, like all MSPs, I am wrestling with. Notwithstanding the above, I remain determined to consider every argument carefully before reaching a final decision. Any constituent who wishes to share views with me for or against or undecided should contact my constituency office. That was an article by Nicola Sturgeon. Glasgow Times, Tuesday the 23rd of April, from the Lifestyle section. Tesco shoppers targeted by £500 gift card scam email. Tesco and consumer group Which have issued a warning to all shoppers over a £500 gift card scam. Tesco customers are being targeted by the phishing email scam, which claims to offer shoppers the chance to claim a £500 gift card. However, following the links in the email will take victims to a malicious survey website which asks you to answer questions. The questions will reveal your personal and financial information, which can then be used to steal your identity. If you receive the scam email, you should not click on any links. You can report the email by forwarding it to report@phishing.gov.uk, and phishing websites can be reported to the National Cyber Security Centre. A warning from Tesco said, using fake emails to get hold of someone's personal details is called phishing. You might receive an email that looks real, as though it's from Tesco, but it may ask you for personal information that we would never ask for. The email is most likely fake if it asks you for passwords, club card number, date of birth or banking details. Some fake emails may ask you to click a link to another website. If you're unsure about the email in the first place, it's best to delete it. If you want to access your club card account and are unsure about a link in an email, always start at tesco.com and click Tesco Club Card to find your way to your club card account. Remember, we'll never ask you for personal information in an email unless you've contacted us first, and we're replying to you directly. We will never ask you for your password. That was an article by Joshua Searle.
This is from the Glasgow Times on the 24th of April 2024 from the news section, and the headline reads, Conversations highlighted as life-saving for vulnerable people. This article is by Ben Waddle. A support worker has highlighted the life-saving potential of conversation for some of the nation's most vulnerable people ahead of this year's Pay It Forward Day. Ewan Brock, a support and development worker at the charity Social Bite, has said conversation and inclusion is hugely important ahead of the event on Sunday, April 28th. Social Bite's Pay It Forward scheme aims to provide hot food and drinks to thousands of people in need, which Brock has also said can prove crucial in developing trust and providing a sense of inclusion for people who may have experienced traumatic events. The Caring Man has been part of the charity that provides homes, jobs, food and support to people experiencing homelessness for 3 years. Ahead of the day, Ewan has said that the number of people the organisation supports has been rising. Meanwhile, as part of the Pay It Forward Day, Scottish coffee roaster Matthew Algie has donated more than 1,000 coffees to the charity. The beverages will be provided through the scheme across Social Bite's 3 Scottish locations in Glasgow, Edinburgh and Aberdeen. Ewan said, The biggest challenge I see at the moment is a shortage of adequate housing across the whole of the UK. Toward the end of 2023, Edinburgh and Glasgow declared a housing emergency, with more councils following this year. This means more people are finding themselves homeless and declaring it with councils, but there is a lack of permanent and temporary homes, as well as hotels/B&B and emergency accommodation, leaving people with no option but to sleep rough or sofa surf with friends or family if they are able to. The Pay It Forward scheme can support someone by providing food and drinks, but it also allows us to build a trusting relationship with people accessing the service, and then can go on to support them going forward. Conversation and inclusion is hugely important in society and a major part of Social Bite. He added, Isolation and loneliness are silent killers, and research suggests it can be as damaging to someone's health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Through Social Bite and Pay It Forward, we can welcome people with a smile, a hot meal, and a simple "How are you today?" It can make someone's day that hasn't spoken to anyone and been ignored on the street. A simple "How are you?" can save lives. Mel Swan, Social Bite's Commercial and Operations Director, said, Pay It Forward is a part of the fabric of Social Bite. Food and drink help people at their most vulnerable and lead to other support towards a more stable position in life. It all starts by talking. Matthew Algie's donation of 1,000 cups of coffee will help hundreds of people across Scotland in the coming weeks. Each one offers the possibility of connection and building a relationship that can help someone experiencing homelessness get the support they need. Paying it forward is a small act that can mean a lot and brighten someone's day. It also plays a big part in our ultimate goal of ending homelessness. The Pay It Forward scheme has proved a gateway to thousands of people accessing support with housing applications, benefits applications, and other support services they are entitled to, as well as referrals into Social Bite's Jobs First programme. Paul Chatterton, Managing Director at Matthew Algie, said, Social Bite tirelessly works to address one of Scotland's most pressing issues, homelessness, and is one of our most important partners. This donation will help kick off conversations that can make a difference, as well as providing a moment of enjoyment at a difficult time for those the charity supports. More importantly, we want to highlight the importance of paying it forward to people across Scotland. A small gesture can make a huge difference to those who need it most. This article was by Ben Waddle. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 24th of April 2024, from the news section, and the headline reads, New care home set to open in Glasgow later this year. This article was by Ben Waddle. A new care home is set to open in Glasgow this year, and it will create several jobs for the area. The new facility, which is called Kelvinside Manor, is being opened by Mel Moore. It will be located on Dorchester Avenue in the city's West End, and it will provide facilities that offer personalised nursing care and support for 48 elderly people, including those with dementia and its related conditions. Once opened, the newly renovated care home will feature a range of amenities, including a cafe, hair and nail salon, private gardens, day rooms and balconies. It will also create 80 jobs in the area in a variety of roles such as nursing, care assistants, service team members, administrators and managers, with recruitment for these jobs starting next month. The facility is expected to open later this year. Mel Moore, Regional Director, Carol Ann Foote, commented, I'm really looking forward to welcoming residents to Kelvinside Manor. This modern luxury home will provide a safe and comfortable environment for residents. Our experience from managing 7 other homes in this region of Scotland means we are equipped with knowledge of the community and will look to continue building strong connections with local members of the public and community groups. Melmore Property Director Michael Gillespie said, Kelvinside Manor will be a brilliant addition to our care homes here in the west of Scotland. This modern luxury home will be finished to the highest standards and is designed for ease of living with ageing and related health conditions. We will provide tailored plans to meet the care, hospitality and social needs with on-site support of a 24-hour nursing team. This article was by Ben Waddle. This is from the Glasgow Times on the 24th of April 2024, from the news section, and the headline reads, Woman charged after cyclist died following crash in Glasgow. This article is by Ben Waddle. A woman has been arrested after a cyclist died following a crash in Glasgow. The incident took place on Fielden Street in the city's East End on Monday, May 29th, 2023. Following the crash, 64-year-old John Morton from Paisley, who was the cyclist, sadly died in hospital. Now, police have said a 52-year-old woman has been arrested and charged in connection with the incident. A report will be sent to the Procurator Fiscal. A spokesperson for Police Scotland said, A woman has been charged after a cyclist died following a crash in Glasgow. John Morton, 64, died in hospital as a result of a collision on Fielden Street on Monday, May 29th, 2023. A 52-year-old woman was arrested and charged yesterday in connection with the incident. This article was by Ben Waddle.
From Glasgow Times, Wednesday, 24th of April, Lifestyle section. Former frontman of American band to host Glasgow concert by Ben Waddle. The former frontman of an American band is set to host a concert in Glasgow. Hughie Morgan, a former member of Fun Loving Criminals, will perform at the Garage in the city centre on Thursday, September the 12th. The 55-year-old will bring his The Fun Loving Criminal show to the venue. The musician left the well-known band, whose hits include Scooby Snacks, Kings of New York and Loco, in 2021. The group were originally founded in 1993 in New York City. The show in Glasgow will also include some special guests, however, they are yet to be revealed. Announcing the gig, Regular Music said, Hughie Morgan, the fun-loving criminal, plays The Garage on Thursday, September the 12th. That article was written by Ben Waddle. From Glasgow Times, Wednesday, 24th of April, Lifestyle section. Glasgow artist shortlisted for prestigious Turner Prize 2024 by Morgan Carmichael. A Glasgow artist has been shortlisted for a prestigious British award. Jasleen Kaur, who was born in the city but now lives in London, has been nominated for the 2024 Turner Prize, an annual prize presented to a British visual artist and organised by the Tate Gallery. Kaur, nominated alongside artists Io Abad, Claudette Johnson and Delaine Lebas, has been shortlisted for her work Alter Alter at Tramway, Glasgow, which showcased her journey growing up in Glasgow's Sikh community. The exhibition used family photos, a red sports car covered with an ornamental doily mat, iron brew and kinetic handbells. The 37-year-old has previously showcased her work at the Victoria and Albert Museum by looking at popular Indian cinema through Europe. An exhibition of the shortlisted work will be held at Tate Britain from September 25th to February the 16th, with the winner announced at the ceremony at London's Tate Britain on December the 3rd. The winner will receive £25,000, while those shortlisted will be awarded £10,000. Alex Farquharson, director of Tate Britain and chairman of the Turner Prize jury, said, "It is an honour to announce such a fantastic shortlist of artists, and I cannot wait to see their exhibition at the Tate Britain this autumn. All 4 of them make work that is full of life. They show how contemporary art can fascinate, surprise and move us, and how it can speak powerfully of complex identities and memories, often through the subtlest of details. In the Turner Prize's 40th year, this shortlist proves that British artistic talent is as rich and vibrant as ever. This will be the award's 40th anniversary and will see the event return to London's Tate Britain for the first time in 6 years." That article was written by Morgan Carmichael.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q and Review and to tell your friends about our service.